Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk about this, big tech war or tech tug of war going on between Nvidia and Huawei, right? You see, the US tried to protect itself and protect its companies by basically cutting China off from the most advanced computer chips, right? The idea was simple. If we stop China from buying the best chips, right, our best AI chips, that means they cannot lead in AI, cannot lead in high-tech weapons or any cutting-edge gadgets. But in practice, this move is starting to hurt American companies. Right? I mean, it sounds good. It always does. But now it's coming, it's hurting us a little bit. And basically also what this is also doing is pushing China to build its own chip industry a lot faster. Right? And exactly what was America trying to do? Well, you see, Washington saw advanced chips as the off switch for China's tech rise. So it started blocking sales of the most powerful chips and the machines needed to make them, especially to big Chinese players like Huawei. Right? On paper, like it always does, this sounded pretty good, sound idea, it sounds pretty smart. If China falls behind in AI and military tech, US companies still, can still sell them older, weaker chips and basically keep making money. But as you guys would probably guess that that's not how things actually played out. You see, Huawei was supposed to be finished. When the US first hit Huawei with bans, many people in the West thought the company was done. It lost access to key American parts, software, and top-end chips used for 5G and premium phones. Instead of dying, Huawei changed strategy. It shifted hard toward Chinese suppliers and poured money and efforts into building things at home, things like chips, materials, even software tools. A few years later, Huawei launched phones like the Mate 60 Pro using a Chinese-made advanced chips and made in almost local parts. You see, inside China, the message was clear. We took a hit, but we can build our own. Okay. And what started happening? Well, as you guys would have guessed it, China started building its own chips. Huawei didn't just, basically save itself. It helped kickstart a whole Chinese chip network. Okay. Through investment arms and partnership, it backed dozens of Chinese companies making everything from chip material to manufacturing gear. China then threw in big government money, huge funds to support new factories, new tools, and new chip design so the country wouldn't have to rely on American technology anymore. Every time the US tightened the rules, you would think by now we would learn, right, not to do this. But every time we tighten the rules, it gave Beijing another reason to double down on, well, guys, we're just gonna have to go ahead and build it ourselves. Nvidia went from, a big winner, a big player. Nvidia was huge in China, right? And Nvidia owned the Chinese market and chip manufacturing and advanced chips, right? It was the king of AI chips. Its hardware, Nvidia's hardware powered most of the world's advanced AI system. And Chinese companies were some of its best customers. When the US started limiting what Nvidia could sell to China, companies should try to play by the rules, right? They got to make money. So that goes, okay, so you don't want me to sell very advanced AI chips to China? All right, so then we're going to make, special cut down chips just for China, slightly weaker, so they can still be allowed to sell these things under US regulation. Well, then that didn't work because what happened was the rules got stricter. Those chips then got also caught up. At the same time, Chinese authorities started pushing their own companies away from relying on Nvidia and towards local options. In a very short time, Nvidia went from basically owning China's AI chip market to losing almost everything. They lost that business. Imagine, you had the lion's share of that country, and then overnight, because some policy that came out of Washington, your business went from 100 to 0 to nothing. That means fewer sales, less profit, and less money to spend on future research. It's not just Nvidia. Other American players are getting squeezed too. Companies that make chip-making machines like Applied Material depend heavily on Chinese factories to buy their equipment. When new export rules kicked in, Applied Materials said it would lose basically between $600 to $700 million in revenue. That's not pocket change, people. That's money that could have gone into new tools and basically new technology. Chip designers like Intel and Qualcomm also saw their licenses pulled to sell certain chips to Chinese customers like Huawei. All right, these guys, they're not just losing orders. Like, I lost a few orders, no big deal. No, they lost access to a market that shapes where the industry is going. All right, now the question is, how is this exactly going to hurt American innovation? You see, the chip business is insanely expensive. Big US chip firms pour a huge share of their revenue into R&D just to stay ahead of the competition. If they lose a big market like China, they lose a big chunk of that revenue. I mean, less revenue means less R&D, research and development, fewer new chips, fewer breakthroughs, and a slower pace of innovation over time. Even with government help, like the CHIPS Act, to build more factories in America, those fabs still need global customers to make financial sense. Without strong sales, including to China, those plants won't generate the cash needed to fund the next generation of technology. Now, I just want to be clear. Huawei is nowhere near catching up to what Nvidia is doing with their technology and their new chips and what they're going to come out in 2026 up until 2030. But the fact that what the reality is that, Huawei is actually quickly catching up. They're making chips not, as good as Nvidia, but they're making chips that are good enough for now. Okay. Now, also, another thing to keep in mind is jobs in local communities that are on the line because of this ban, because these companies can't sell it to China. Chip companies don't just live on just balance sheets. A lot of these companies, they anchor real communities in places like Silicon Valley, Phoenix, Austin, and parts of New York. These areas, these communities, they have built a basically whole ecosystem designed on manufacturing. Analysts warn that losing major markets can cost tens of thousands of high-skill, high-paid jobs in the sector, because each of those jobs support each other. We're talking about suppliers, contractors, local services. The total impact can be a lot bigger, right? This is like a ripple effect, right? In the systems that, basically depend on these companies to be there. One of those teams, once those teams and specialized suppliers are gone, they are very, very hard to rebuild, even if the government starts writing checks later. Meanwhile, China speeds up. China is basically speed up on the other side. China is treating all of this as a wake-up call. The message from the top is clear. We can never again depend on foreign tech that can be turned off. So China is pouring huge sums of money into its own chips, its own factories, its own tools, aiming to cover everything, the whole stack, from design to production. Huawei AI chips and other local alternatives are being pushed as the default, basically inside China's cloud services. They want, Huawei's in everything now, cloud services, AI projects, even government systems. Step by step, China is building a separate tech system that does not need US parts at all. All right. So what's the big catch here? Well, China has implemented a strategy that bites back. Okay. This also, like I said earlier before, it leads to the same core problem. Export controls are supposed to slow China down and protect US security, but they also starve American companies of money and scale. Exactly what those companies need to stay ahead. At the same time, the pressure is pushing China to move faster towards full independence, backed by big government funding and also political will. So instead of a world where China still has to buy high-end chips and gear from American firms like Nvidia, what you're going to get is you're going to get two separate systems. You're going to get an American system and you're going to get a Chinese system. The American system risks being smaller and less well-funded than it could have been. The Chinese system, which, it's not there yet, but once mature, won't be controlled by the US policy at all. Put simply, in trying to protect its lead by cutting China off, America may be making its own chip industry weaker and giving China every reason, every excuse to build a future where it doesn't need American technology ever again. I mean, how many times are you going to keep seeing this? We did the same thing to Russia. We cut them out of SWIFT, out of the payment system. So what do? They built an alternative. Every time we push these countries, we cut them off something, we just basically force them to compete with us in other ways. So anyway, let me know, guys, what you think. This is going to be all for today. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That would basically help this channel a lot. Well, thank you, and I will see you soon.